We're recording. Why is it so blurry? 2 seconds. A little bit of an improvement. I just had my phone stolen. So yes, I have two phones. The new one was stolen. And what's really funny is I was making a video which you may have seen. It's going to be uploaded before this. And thankfully it was on this same phone about my opinion on Uyghur people in Xinjiang and how there is a massive kind of contrast between Uyghurs and Chinese people. I really like Chinese people. I'm not a fan of Uyghurs. And I was saying, like, every time I come to China, it's been about 8 times so far. The only problems I've ever had in the whole country are from Uyghur people. Like some really serious problems as well. Like secret police had to get involved a couple of years ago in Kashgar because the bus station, which transfers you, I think I said this in the previous video, to Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, was monopolized by basically Uyghur mafia, and they refused to let foreigners travel with just anyone on public transport, and were trying to make people take private taxi for 2.5 hours to the border. So then, like, the secret police had to arrive, and in the end, it was like, you're going to take this guy for free by himself, even though I insisted I would just pay the normal fee. And then always gets shortchanged in Xinjiang, and it's always by Uyghur people. Just as I made that video, I took a taxi. The guy charged me 400% more than the price. Basically, you order through Didi, and people have this sort of misconception that with the taxi options, it's always gauged by the application, right? So they do that for all the cars except metered taxis, which are always an option. And apparently with the metered taxis, because it's not linked obviously to the metered taxi system, because these metered taxis are using all kinds of apps and it's just an old system, they manually upload the price. So this guy uploaded a 400% fee, and in the end, I contacted them and I got most of that back. But I then got ice cream, sat down, and someone stole my phone. And we've been all day trying to track using the GPS because I had the Find Hub on, which is Google's like find your lost phone app essentially. And the person didn't turn the phone off. Whether that was a mistake or not, I don't know to this point. But the biggest problem is, I don't know if you're aware, in China, to use Google, you have to run a VPN. So just to use anything pertaining to Google VPN, Google Maps VPN, your Gmail VPN, any search VPN. And a lot of the time, the phone has actually got Google built into it, like my phone. So nothing really works at all, no internet. It doesn't matter if you change the browser. And both my phones had VPN running, and including the one that was stolen. So I was able to connect to that device for like 4 hours. Basically, it was obviously running for like 40 minutes before I noticed it was missing when I walked back to my hotel. We checked the location, and then it was still exactly where I thought I lost it, where I sat down, and I was refreshing it. It was still there. Then there was some slight movement within the building. You could see it slightly changed. And essentially, what happened was I asked here at the hotel what to do. Like, do you think I should just go there, not being able to speak Chinese, or get the police involved? So, from my experience in the past, you get the Chinese police involved so long as they're the Chinese ones. Everything goes really, really well. They're really proficient. Again, I'm a big fan of the Chinese. So, Uyghur police showed up. Completely incompetent. And we went to the location. They then made themselves visible with my phone, trying to click the alarm that your Find My Phone has, basically telling everyone they can track the phone before we've even got it, which is so stupid because it's going to freak people out. It's exactly what happened. I only asked half a dozen people to build up sort of an image of like, we know what we're doing. And then we went to check the cameras, by the way. Crazy. I happen to have been in a police station in Kashgar for the event aforementioned, and I've seen their surveillance room in just a really tiny corner of a road transport police station, no bigger than a normal story house in the UK. And it was insane. It was like a spaceship, like 300-inch TVs or whatever, just with just millions of miniature screens embedded within. It was crazy. This one was even more novel because every building, so this is just like an old 1980s rundown, sort of Soviet looking tenement building. You go down into the basement, this whole dirty concrete basement. It could have actually been older now, thinking about the building, maybe 50s or 60s, one of the older ones, which isn't that common actually at the moment in China. Most things get redeveloped quite rapidly. And there's just this old concrete room with like a non mattressed, like, I don't know what you call it, like a bed frame with just the slats with like a rug on it, like a Uyghur rug, and an old man with like an old Dell desktop with just all of the street cameras. That one street, tiny street, all the cameras, and the only camera that was focusing on me is the one that wasn't working. So we went back. They asked around a little bit more, and then we noticed someone has gotten wind, obviously, from what they're doing, and the GPS started to move, and it started to move on a road. And I was a bit paranoid at the start that just the location wasn't, there was no, I don't know what the word is a trajectory. I don't know what I'm looking for, but the satellite's not doing things correctly, and it's sort of giving a disjointed image that isn't really accurate and pertaining to the actual person with the phone. So we basically travelled up. It was, the whole thing is crazy random. We'd followed this line which went back to a hotel I was staying at last night because I changed hotels. And by this point, I was like, well, this must be fucked. It must be like an old geolocation because what are the chances that it would be here, right? So it was really embarrassing because I told that hotel that I was like leaving the town, that I was just switching to a better one, and they came out, and no one was really translating what was going on. I didn't have time to translate because we were sort of in the zone trying to find this person. And so I said, like, look, the location's back to where we were now, and quite rightly it was. It had sort of returned to another area. So I was getting a bit confused. They were getting a bit confused. So, oh God, what happened next? Yeah, so we went back to the original place. One of the cops had to go and do something else, and we went to the store on the corner where I was sat outside of because they had a camera that looked at their door and it would have showed me walking past. But I thought that I arrived later than I did, so I was giving him a time frame of like 3:15, and he was looking through for like 20 minutes and we couldn't find me. But then when I got back, I realised, well, I ordered ice cream at 2:25. Took 10 minutes to make, 2:35, 20 minutes maximum walking to get there. So it was actually like a solid 20, 25 minutes earlier that I would have got there. So we sort of lost interest. And then the phone, the GPS started moving again, bouncing around again. And I concluded that the only people that were going down this road and sat next to me when I was eating my ice cream were the delivery drivers. And logically, one of the places that the GPS kept stopping at was a gas station. And I was trying to explain to them there must be like some really popular restaurants because it's moving to certain points on roadsides and then stopping for a while as a delivery driver would do, right? And this point, as I've stated, was being just used by like a cut through for the little e-bikes. And so that we weren't sure at first. And during this, there was an interval where we had to go and arrest someone. So I was in the back of the car. They went out, arrested someone, and I'm sat next to someone that's being detained. There's a funny point to that story as well. And then we realize, no, this is definitely not random. The way it's like moving on the map, it's following roads. So we pursue this slightly lagged GPS. And then eventually it gets to this restaurant, and we see there's only one of these yellow bikes. There's no other bikes around. It's exactly outside the restaurant. They say, wait here. They go in and sort of ascertain the driver, who was a lady. She's got a face mask and goggles on, so I can really see her. And the GPS is right on her, and they stopped talking to her, and that was like their investigation. And they sort of translated, she looks fine. And as she went, I clocked that she didn't go back to the city. She was going into like a quarry area because we're already on the fringe of the city where I don't think anyone would be getting food. I could be wrong, but that was my initial sort of interpretation of that scene. And the GPS followed her exactly. And then some kids run up. I don't understand the kids to this point. Some kids show up, maybe like she's a regular or they know her or something, and they just like said something to these coppers, pointed, and then we all just dived in this car. They had heard something that just made them suspicious, combined with the GPS. So we follow her. Meanwhile, the kids are actually following us on the little bikes because they arrive when we detain this woman. And this is where it gets ridiculous. So they're Uyghur. Maybe she's Uyghur as well. Maybe it's something ethnic. I don't know. But they search her entire bike. So they go through everything as best as they could, which is probably like shit. And they don't search her at all. Not the handbag, not the pockets, nothing. Obviously, if she's got a phone on her, it's probably on her. So that was the end of it. They just sort of like said, "Oh, okay, yeah, bye. Sorry for that," and like we left. And then whoever had the phone, which was literally almost 100% her, the phone gets turned off. The only thing I can remember, if this ever reaches the Chinese world, is that the number of the bike was number 100, which was very convenient. And it was the yellow takeaway company, which I think is the biggest one, the one that begins with M. Um, but yeah, that was crazy. And we went back to the station with the person that was detained. And yeah, I just sat there watching these guys basically play chicken leg with each other, which is where, like youthful kids do boisterously, like arm locking one another, giving each other chicken legs. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it. They bought me Pepsi. They were just chugging Pepsi, just like a load of boys doing no police work whatsoever. All of them were vegans, 100%. I'm assuming that there are different grades of police because I had this before when I had the issue in Kashgar. I was like the sort of local bobbies, the lowest level, which these guys were. So literally no hope of anything actually going well. And then you have like the real police, which are the Chinese ones who are like imported from East China. Um, and then yeah, they just were like, oh, we tried to call my UK numbers because my other phone has both my UK SIMs, and it was ringing still. So it was a bit weird. Like they must have. I assume they turned it off before, but maybe they just put it in a location where there was no signal, like internet signal, so I couldn't get the GPS. Or what's also possible is I needed the VPNs to run, so the Nord VPN on my other phone maybe just randomly switched off because I could still see when you connect on Find My Hub, you can still see the battery and your network, and both of those were on. So that's probably what it was. And then we called my numbers, and it was ringing for one of the numbers. I then called later on my Rebtel, which is like a sort of paid Wi-Fi service calling, and I spent like £20 in a minute. It was insane, just calling this number, like 1 minute, 20 quid. What else happened? Yeah, then he's like, "Oh, write some information down," and I was like, "Well, I don't have WhatsApp. Do you want my passport?" He's like, "No," which was weird. And then I wanted them to do the IMEI number because you can also track a phone with an IMEI number, and he literally translated on his device. This isn't something that we do in China, for at least this for public things like this because it's like secret. I didn't really know what that meant. I don't even know if that's accurate. If they don't do it for like just the public because it's too much of a ball ache. I'm hoping they do it for me because on that paper I still wrote the IMEI number down. And that was it. And then I realised when I left, got a taxi, it's like, you didn't ask me for. Oh, sorry, I didn't get a taxi back. They drove me back. You didn't ask for like the time. You didn't make any notes, like the time that this happened, like any of the events, no statement, nothing. It was just literally just a kid in a uniform with no policing experience, albeit very nice, I should say. They were like really just nice guys, just chain smoking, just classic sort of Central Asian Uyghur police, not real Chinese police. And so there wasn't phone wasn't found. Eventually, the phone was turned off. I lost it, all GPS, and then I just had to conclude, well, I don't even want to risk that they might turn it back on. I might get a location because I have all my data on there. I may have even lost some of that already. Don't want to even think about that. So I had to just lock the phone, and so they can't get any of my data on Google, and there's nothing else on my phone that they could access. Maybe there is actually. Maybe I should factory reset that phone. Thinking about that now. No, because they wouldn't have the passwords to anything. Yeah, no, I think it's fine. The email. I could get into the email. I could get into the email. I need to sign out some stuff soon. But I think I can see when they log in. They can't log in anyway without running the VPN, and I doubt they would know which VPN to run to then go into my email, which then they need someone to translate. I don't know. It's usually pretty secure on our phones. Anyway, yeah. So that's the gist of my day. Thankfully, this is my second day, and Birken's pretty small, so I saw everything already, and it was baking hot. Um, so that's pretty much done. Really enjoying the hotels in China, even though I just lost a phone. Touch wood, I get it back. Probably not. But yeah, I love these hotels. Like this is like this little cute place. We're right in the centre, by the way. The street is really pretty. This is just a tenner a night. The other one was plus I get cash back. The other one was like £8. Um, and then yeah, I haven't eaten all day except the ice cream and the Pepsi. Um, which I politely drank, by the way. I don't drink soft drinks ever. And then they were like, I asked them, is there somewhere like I can get food near here just to bring back? And they're like, we just order it for you and you can just Alipay us. So they're really nice at the reception. Ordered the takeaway food. But I just find it so funny, like to wrap up. I don't like Uyghurs. I don't like a lot of people from these cultures. I just then had like an hour and a half conversation with a friend philosophically about like what is bad culture. Is there a scale of like inferior cultures? And for sure there is, of course. Like culture can encapsulate things like your behavior towards another human being, which is why we have the scale of criminality with like murder and theft and this stuff. Obviously, murder's worse, and there are certain cultures that don't promote that as stringently as others, which means in that sphere they're inferior to a culture that sets it as a precedent to behave towards one another. But then we also acknowledge, of course, that you have other that culture is very expansive. So many variables, of course. There's things that are more positive in certain countries where that might be apparent. For example, more social cohesion. These sort of interactions promote humanistic behavior. Even things like cuisine, your your take on how to treat the landscapes around you. But I still argued, and I think we actually concluded that, well, yeah, but then you can have a mean, you have an average, right? If you took all of the variables, all of the important characteristics from each culture, and of course, there's going to be um, a massive variation. Some cultures are going to place one thing really highly and others really lowly, but then likewise, something else is going to be more beneficial to or be more uh, promoted more wholly in the culture that formerly was more negative in one respect. But when you account for those, you can still get a mean, right? Just like any calculation, and therefore some cultures are just worse than others, like period. And I firmly believe that. I mean, you can give so many examples of countries that are just shite. Like take South America, right? You look at all the countries in South America, some are more famous, some have more of a potent culture, some are more distinct for so many different reasons: Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Colombia. And then you've got places like Suriname, Guyana, and then you have like Mexican culture, and then you've got like El Salvador and like Guatemala. And, there's definitely a scale of potency within culture. And yeah, I just literally made a video on this phone, which you may have seen. If not, it will be the video before this. Equal length. It's going to be a 20-minute video, and I talk about the reasons and the experiences I've had quite a lot, including yesterday and the day before, and today before the phone was stolen, specifically about Uyghur people. And then my phone gets stolen by them, most likely. Might not even be them, you see, stereotyping. It could be a Chinese person, but it's not very likely, and I'll tell you why. Because usually the delivery jobs, and it was a delivery driver for sure, are undertaken by people that are paid the least or have less opportunity, which is usually Uyghurs. Most hand. Oh, my door's knocking. Maybe they got my phone back.